Restlessness is evolution in disguise. What feels like anxiety or impatience is often the soul pushing against limitation. You're not breaking down, you're breaking through. Frustration is focus information. It shows you what isn't working so you can refine what will. Every frustration is a blueprint for dominance if you dare to study it. Fear is the door to power. True fear doesn't block the path. It is the path. Where there is fear, there is buried treasure. Discomfort is proof of proximity. The pressure you feel is not punishment. It is proximity to greatness. Only those nearing the summit feel the thin air. Emotion is energy waiting for direction. Mismanaged emotion destroys. Directed emotion creates. You must command your internal state or be commanded by it. Breakthrough requires brutal honesty and radical belief. You must refuse the comfort of excuses and demand from yourself a higher standard, even when you can't yet see the result. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a reason you're feeling the pressure. There is a reason for the restlessness that gnaws at your chest. And no, it is not because you're failing. It is because you're evolving. You see, nature never calls a man to rise without first shaking the ground beneath his feet. And what you feel right now, the turmoil, the discomfort, the resistance, is not your undoing. It is your unfolding. Let us begin with restlessness. You think it's a sign to stop, a sign that something is wrong. But what if I told you it's your spirit stretching beyond the boundaries of your current identity? The man you are now is too small for the destiny you're being called to. This agitation is not a curse, it's a call. Answer it. Now consider frustration. Frustration, the fire that burns through your plans, the obstacle that refuses to move. But look closer. Frustration is feedback. It's your system telling you, refine, sharpen, simplify. The mountain is not mocking you, it's measuring you. And you are being forged, not forgotten. And what of fear? Let me tell you this plainly. Fear is not a wall. It is a doorway. When fear rises in your chest, it means you're near the thing that matters most. Greatness never hides in comfort. It waits behind resistance. Step through. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for certainty. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It is the mastery of it. So why do these emotions visit you now? Because you are closer than you think. Closer to the shift. Closer to the breakthrough. Closer to the version of yourself you've always felt but have not yet become. But beware. This is where most men turn back. They mistreat discomfort as defeat. They call restlessness a red flag. They bow to fear instead of being baptized by it. You must not. You must learn to transmute. Turn restlessness into momentum. Mold frustration into focus. Use fear as a compass, not a cage. This is not mere motivation, my friends. This is strategy. This is how men become masters. This is how the average become immortal. So when the pressure builds and the resistance mounts, smile. You are not breaking. You are building. And you are standing on the edge of the life you were born to live. Now leap. Restlessness is often misinterpreted as a flaw, a deficiency, or a sign that one is off course. But the truth is far more profound. Restlessness is not a malfunction. It is an inner signal of growth. It is the soul's whisper, urging you toward a higher version of yourself that your current circumstances can no longer contain. Just as a tree's roots push deeper into the earth in silence before it breaks through the surface in bloom, so too does your inner being strain against the walls of its present condition before it transcends them. This internal pressure, this sacred discontent, is the tension between who you are and who you are becoming. It is evolution in its most raw and intimate form. A caterpillar must feel the restless stirrings inside its cocoon before it dares to become a butterfly. That tension is necessary. It is the agitation that awakens potential, the unease that precedes elevation. Restlessness does not mean something is wrong. It means something is ready, ready to shift, to stretch, to rise. It is not the symptom of failure, but the sign of readiness. Many mistake this divine dissatisfaction for misdirection. They suppress it, they numb it, they flee from it. But the wise do not. The wise listen, they lean in. They recognize that the soul speaks not through certainty, but through discomfort. When your spirit outgrows your environment, the discontent you feel is a necessary friction. It is the growing pain of greatness. There is no expansion without resistance, no mastery without the stirring. To feel restless is to know that your inner architecture is no longer compatible with the confines of your current experience. Something greater is being summoned from within, and it refuses to stay dormant. Frustration is a complex and often misunderstood signal, frequently mistaken for failure or weakness. In truth, it is neither. Frustration is a form of feedback, a precise, often uncomfortable form of intelligence that reveals misalignment between your effort and your outcome. It is not the enemy of progress, but rather its essential catalyst. When examined with clarity and courage, frustration becomes one of the most valuable indicators of where refinement is needed. It is not there to stop you. It is there to sharpen you. Every time you encounter frustration, you are being presented with a mirror. It reflects a gap between your current skill and the level the situation demands, between your vision and your execution, between what is known and what must be learned. Most people meet this mirror with resistance or resentment, but those committed to mastery recognize it as a tool for transformation. Frustration doesn't emerge where there is no potential. It only arises where there is something more possible, something yet unrealized, but fully within reach. Frustration carries a code. Beneath the emotional intensity lies a message, and the depth of the frustration often corresponds with the importance of the lesson. If you're willing to listen, truly listen, you will find the friction points are pointing directly at inefficiencies, assumptions, or limitations in your current thinking. They are guiding you to simplify what is overcomplicated, to focus what has become scattered, and to refine what is still rough. Rather than avoid or suppress it, those on the path of growth learn to interrogate their frustration. They ask what it is revealing. They trace it to its root. And in doing so, they are not diminished by it. They are disciplined by it. Frustration, when rightly understood, becomes a sculptor, shaping raw potential into refined excellence. Fear in its purest form is not the adversary we have been conditioned to believe it is. It is not merely a barrier, but a compass, one that points unerringly toward the very thing that matters most. Fear arises not when we are weak, but when we are standing at the edge of something significant. It appears at thresholds before the leap, before the shift, before the decision that alters everything. The presence of fear does not signal that we should retreat. It signals that we are touching something sacred, something with the power to transform. The mind often interprets fear as danger, as a threat to survival. But most fear in the modern world is not physical. It is psychological, emotional, existential. It surfaces when the familiar begins to dissolve, when the self must expand beyond what it has previously known. Fear then becomes a signal that we are nearing our growth frontier, the boundary between the life we have known and the life that calls us forward. It emerges when the identity we've carried no longer fits the future we are being summoned to embody. To encounter fear is to stand before possibility. It is an invitation to step into greater alignment, a test of your willingness to meet uncertainty with conviction. The magnitude of fear often mirrors the magnitude of the breakthrough waiting on the other side. It is the fire that forges quarries, but only for those who dare to step through rather than step back. To be fearless is not the goal. To be aware of fear, to study it, and to walk forward in spite of it, that is the mark of mastery. Fear is not your limitation, it is your orientation. It points to where the next evolution must occur, and where your power waits to be claimed. Discomfort is often perceived as a warning, an internal signal that something is wrong or must be avoided. But beneath its surface lies a deeper, more intelligent truth. Discomfort is evidence that you are nearing transformation. It appears not when you are off course, but when you are moving closer to the edges of your current identity. The pressure that builds is not chaos without purpose. It is precision without comfort. It is the compression that precedes emergence, much like the final moments before birth or the heat required to forge steel. Discomfort is the tension that lives at the boundary between the known and the possible. There is a unique kind of discomfort that arises when the soul begins to push against the constraints of the familiar. It does not come to destroy, but to disrupt. It unsettles what has become too small, too predictable, too safe. This is not the discomfort of disorder, but the discomfort of expansion. It is the sensation of growing into a space not yet fully formed. It is a signal that evolution is not only imminent, it is already underway. To misread discomfort as danger is to abandon the very process that leads to elevation. Many do this. They flee the pressure, they numb it, silence it, or run back to what was easier, mistaking temporary relief for real safety. But those who understand its purpose sit with it. They observe, they listen. They learn to distinguish between the discomfort of misalignment and the discomfort of growth. One calls for course correction. The other calls for perseverance. Discomfort in its highest form is the friction generated by proximity to purpose. It is the evidence that your old frame can no longer contain your emerging capacity. It is not something to resist, but something to study, to endure, and to honor as the birthplace of the next version of yourself. Emotion, at its core, is unrefined energy, raw, potent, and capable of immense transformation when properly directed. It is neither inherently good nor bad. It is neutral until interpreted and applied. Most individuals allow emotion to command them, to dictate their reactions, decisions, and behaviors without understanding its deeper function. But emotion is not meant to dominate consciousness. It is meant to serve as a messenger, a force that, when harnessed with intention, can be transmuted into powerful momentum. The undisciplined mind misuses emotion, but the trained mind channels it into focused creation. The emotional states you experience are signals encoded with information about what you value, where you are misaligned, and where attention is required. Anger may reveal injustice or suppressed boundaries. Sadness may indicate loss or stagnation. Joy points to alignment, resonance, purpose. Fear, often dismissed or resisted, can reveal direction when properly understood. Emotion is a sophisticated internal language, not an obstacle to logic, but an extension of it, when viewed through a lens of conscious awareness. To master emotion is not to suppress it, nor is it to indulge in it without discernment. It is to study its patterns, recognize its origins, and use it to guide energy toward meaningful expression. The same energy that fuels impulsive reaction can be converted into disciplined action. The individual who learns this conversion process begins to operate with a level of power that is no longer tied to external conditions. They are moved not by moods, but by mission. Emotion becomes a servant rather than a saboteur. It becomes a tool for strategy rather than a trigger for chaos. When you no longer fear your emotional intensity, but instead refine it into clarity, you gain access to a deeper intelligence, one that integrates instinct with insight and turns internal noise into sovereign creative force. Breakthrough requires a level of internal honesty that most are unwilling to practice and a depth of belief that many never develop. The distance between stagnation and transformation is often defined not by talent or opportunity, but by the ability to confront oneself without distortion or denial. Brutal honesty is not about self-criticism. It is the courageous act of seeing things exactly as they are, without excuses, without illusions, without the comforting veil of justification. It is the moment when a person stops negotiating with their limitations and begins to take full ownership of both their current reality and their hidden potential. Radical belief, on the other hand, is the refusal to collapse under the weight of doubt, even when no external validation exists. It is not blind optimism, but an anchored conviction, rooted in an inner knowing that what you seek is already possible within you. Belief at this level is not reactive to circumstances, it is generative. It creates momentum where none exists. It defies odds not by denying them, but by transcending the logic that created them. When belief is combined with honesty, a new threshold is unlocked. The ability to act with both clarity and conviction. Many wait for evidence before they believe, but the individual who lives from mastery understands that belief is the cause, not the result of transformation. The most powerful breakthroughs occur not after the external world shifts, but when the internal narrative is rewritten. This requires the discipline to see the truth without flinching and the audacity to believe without external proof. It is a rare fusion of self-awareness and self-trust, one that liberates action from fear and frees identity from limitation. In this state, progress is no longer a question of chance, but a deliberate unfolding of what was always waiting to emerge.